These are the two things I think every parent needs to think about when parenting their children. The seed that my mother planted, the soil that I was raised in, was a lot less toxic than the soil that we see today. The soil that we see today around us, it's me, myself and I. It's objects, it's inanimate objects, it's pleasure, it's dopamine fix. Our homes were empty of material things but filled with love, compassion and mercy. And I think that's where the world has gone wrong today.
2013, you took me to Egypt and I landed in a place called Rehab in Egypt. You know, for the viewers, Rehab is like a lovely American copy complex. So you had palm trees.
Correct.
You had like these massive Jeep SUVs, and I thought, wow, studying in Egypt's not going to look bad. We stayed there, and then I remember you said, no, you're not staying here. You're going to go to Nasser City. Right. So when I hit Nasser City, I saw these stray dogs in the middle of the road, chasing, barking. No Wi-Fi cord, no Wi-Fi cable in the apartment. Right. You knew that I was going to find it hard.
Sure.
Like, why do you just dump me there?
Anyone who wants to embark on a journey of parenting, write this on all the walls of your house.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala man la nabiyya ba'da. Dear respected listeners, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today's episode, dear viewers, is an episode that's very, very close to my heart because of the guest I'm hosting, because of the guest I'm interviewing. The guest is someone who's very close to me. The guest is actually someone who I grew up in his arms. I grew up in his lap. Someone I look up to very much so from when I was young and even until I'm now 29 years old. And that guest is my beloved father, someone I call Dad. Dad, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam, Usama, and Jazakallah khair for the weighty introduction.
Jazakallah khair. Dad, we want to jump straight into it, inshallah.
Sure.
Because this podcast can unpack a lot of things itself.
Okay.
So, you know, your parenting was built on a vision.
Yeah.
So when you hear of Islamic parenting, what is the thing that comes to mind? What is it that you can lend to the viewers when you hear the word Islamic parenting based on a vision?
Yeah, I think it's very simple and very straightforward. Parenting in Islam is not about just building the Islamic credentials in your children. It's the ability to build Islamic credentials, which they can then carry to the rest of the world, the community, the society, their own family, inshallah, when they grow up like yourself, you're married, to their wives, to their children. So the vision is very simple, is the carrying of the deen. It shouldn't stop at just titles of Maulana, Hafiz, Ijazat, but it should go much, much further. And that is to carry Allah's deen and to work for it relentlessly until it is established upon this earth.
Jazakallah khair. Also, Dad, you named me the name Osama. Osama has a huge heavy weight in the legacy of Islam. Now, why I'm mentioning this is because when you had me as a child and I came into the dunya, did you already have a vision of what you wanted to do with your children? Or did that moment become crystal clear for you many years later? So, yeah, like, did you have this vision before I was born?
Yeah, it's really, vision for children, Usama, depends really much on what I was before you were born. Okay? If I was a hard-working, I was just wanted to get big in the dunya and achieve a lot of status and a lot of money, then this vision would naturally transfer onto you. Well before you even came into this dunya, alhamdulillah, by the grace and mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I was carrying dawah. So my vision for any of my children would be the same, is to carry the dawah. So when I was 16, I started carrying this dawah. Now I'm in my mid-50s and I'm, alhamdulillah, still carrying this dawah. So I can't see a life for you or your brother anything less than doing what I do, but doing it better and doing it more, with more energy, more enthusiasm, and even more skills.
You know that you speak about this dawah, yeah? Why is it that this dawah is so pivotal to your life? And can you just open that up a little bit more? What dawah are you referring to? Because there's loads of forms of dawah today. So you got online stuff, there's stalls, people debating Christians, people kind of debunking stuff that comes from the Bible.
Sure.
So when you speak dawah and you've been doing this since you're 16 years old, what trajectory of dawah are you referring to?
So we're talking about actually making Allah's deen a reality in our life as an individual, making a reality in our life as a community living in the West, and more importantly, making it a reality of the Ummah in the Muslim world where they can see Islam established upon them. And in order to do that, Osama, we need to understand that Islam didn't come to sit on a bookshelf, neither did it come just to be memorized. Neither did it come just for us to attain titles that we've got this ijazat and we studied with that sheikh. Absolutely not. It came to change the reality. The Prophet ﷺ, he was put on this earth for a purpose. And that purpose was to make Allah's deen the highest. And he relentlessly went on and did this until that was established. So I would say wherever you are in the world, whether it's the East or the West, there is one objective, and that is to bring Islam into a reality, whether that's your individual reality, your society, your community, or at large the ummah, to transform the landscape of the world so we can see the justice of Islam.
Now that I want to go back many years, way before 1996 when I was born. I want to go back to 1971 when you was born.
Correct.
When you were a child, when you had parents, may Allah Azza wa Jal grant them Jannah.
Ameen.
The rest of the deceased of this ummah.
Ameen.
What is it that you, now that they're no longer here in the dunya and, inshallah, they're in the barzakh seeing their place in Jannah, what is it that you miss most about your mom and dad now?
The wisdom. That's it. The wisdom. We know from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my rizq is fixed.
That's right.
Okay? I will eat as much as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me to. But what I miss the most of my mother is her wisdom and her friendship. These are the two things I think every parent needs to think about when parenting their children. The wisdom and the friendship. If these two are non-existent, it doesn't matter if you've studied with a great grand mufti of whatever. These are the two things, are almost like the oil amongst the cogs. What makes the cogs go round may well be the knowledge, but what lubricates them, keeps them soft, keeps them going, keeps them eternal, is the wisdom and the friendship. And this, by Allah, I had with my mother. My father, he passed away. Your grandfather, he passed away when I was 10. But the wisdom and friendship I had with my mother, subhanallah. And she did it all on her own. And I'm sure we will discuss the issue of single parenting.
That's right.
But mashallah, she did a great job of raising 9 children.
Wow.
All on her own. And each one of them getting her wisdom and her companionship.
You speak about wisdom, Dad. Could you just explain that a little bit more? Because today, parents, alhamdulillah, they work hard and they love their kids. Some of them even work both jobs and stuff. But the youth today and those who are slightly younger, or even older to be honest, they sometimes think that they know better than their parents. I've realized now that at the age of 29 years old, the dunya may advance in terms of technological advancements. We may have currencies which are digital. We may have new fancier cars, architecture, buildings, city, all of that. But the nature of insan is still the same. So someone who's lived more years than you have, they've acquired scars and wounds before you even know what they are.
Correct.
So that adds to their wisdom and they're able to pave your path. So I want to ask, why is it today that kids don't really see their parents as role models and heroes who can actually give them wisdom to stop them falling quite badly?
Yeah, I think it's the way the world has evolved, Osama. I don't blame the children. I blame the wider environment. I blame the soil. The soil the seed that my mother planted, the soil that I was raised in, was a lot less toxic than the soil that we see today. The soil that we see today around us, it's me, myself, and I. It's objects, it's inanimate objects, it's pleasure, it's dopamine fix. I need a fix all the time. And of course, mom and dad are going to say, do your homework. Mom and dad are going to say, have you done your Quran? Mom and dad are going to say, have you prayed? These all go against the natural, what in society, what we have today is the dopamine fix. These don't give me the fix I need. So, of course, you're going to get rebellious children. You're going to find children who say, no, you don't get it. You don't get it. You don't live my life. But by Allah, I tell you, they get it. The parents get it. Okay? And if we stepped aside, just step back for a few minutes and just observed our parents, we would learn a lot more. I give you one example. My mother, she had a very famous saying. She said, every time I had a problem and I said, Mom, what's the answer? How do I solve this? And the only answer she used to give to me was time. Be patient. Okay. And I said, how is that going to solve my problem? And then she used to say, look, time is the best storyteller. Let it tell this story. Okay. 50 odd years later or 40 odd years later, I live by this. And as you know, when you come to me for anything, what do I say to you? I say, be patient. Let time unravel this story. It doesn't necessarily mean we need a fix right now. If it's not pressing, if it's not urgent, if it's not harming anyone, give it time. And this is the few gems that I can quote from my mother, who did a fantastic job of parenting all her children. And mind you, by the way, this is a lady I'm talking about who didn't speak English, who was living in the West, who was sewing clothes just to bring the food in. Okay, our homes were empty of material things, but filled with love, compassion, and mercy. And I think that's where the world has gone wrong today. That our homes today are filled. We have detached houses. We have a very long driveway. We have maybe Rolls-Royce Bentleys in these driveways, but inside they are hollow and empty.
You know, Dad, if you had the opportunity to see your parents just one last time, and you could spend one moment with them over a cup of tea, what would you tell them now from what you've gone through in your life so far? And what would you want them to tell you? What do you think they would tell you?
Inshallah, they would tell me how good it is in Jannah. Inshallah, this is what I'd like to hear from them. How good it is they are awaiting for a reunion of all their children and grandchildren. What I would like to tell them is, you were right. Haq, you were right. Because this is something that when we are growing up, most of the time we spend saying to our parents, you don't get it. Okay? And I'm no different. When I was young and hot-headed, I thought, no, they don't get it. Mom doesn't speak English. She's not from this country. She doesn't get it. By Allah, she got it. She got it very clearly.
So, I just want to mention just now, because you spoke about Jannah when Amiji passed away, a few days after, I had a dream that she was wearing a white scarf. Remember I told you guys this from a family group chat. After Fajr, I had a dream that she was in the courtyard of Al-Aqsa, and obviously she's not Arab, so she can't speak Arabic.
Correct.
But in the dream, she's speaking to me in Arabic. And her face is very young, almost looking like she's in her late 20s, early 30s.
MashaAllah.
And she's saying to me in her house, which is near the courtyard of Al-Aqsa, come to see my new family and come and eat these foods with me. So remember, she was a lover of fruits.
Correct.
She would pick pomegranates and grapes and oranges.
Correct.
So she done that. So, when you're saying just now, I hope to say that, they're in Jannah, that's something I remember a few days.
Inshallah. We pray for every parent to rest in Jannah, inshallah.
Ameen. Next thing, Dad, is the whole issue of balance. I've got a particular view on this. People say, how can we balance ambitions for dunya, and how can we balance excellence in the deen? Now, here's my view, Dad, and then you can obviously share yours. I hold the opinion, Dad, that this idea of balance isn't how the West portray it. And I'll give you an example. When do you ever hear someone say, I need to strike a balance in how much money I'm going to make? If someone is making 2-3 million a year, he doesn't want balance. He wants more money. He wants 2 million again, 2 million again. He's racking it up as much as he can. Even when someone, for example, reaches a social status of certain amount of followers online, he doesn't say, nah, I need to strike a balance now. I'm getting too many followers. I'm getting hounded on the street. They love that attention. So my point about balance is, according to the way of life you live under or the civilization you live in, they are the ones who define for you what success is. So success in this world is monetary gain. No one wants balance with that. But then the moment Islam comes in, and Islam is a foreign idea to the civilization we live in today, i.e. a creator, relying on him, doing right by him, serving the community, not getting in trouble, respecting the opposite gender, lowering all of these things, people now say, how can I balance this with this? So I hold the opinion that the way of life we live in, they are the ones who define for you what you should be seeking with excellence, and anything else they just term it with balance to push it aside. Because obviously they can't relegate everything that people come with, because people come from different ways of life and backgrounds, religions, etc. But that being said, Dan, what would you still then advise people to do in terms of their deen and dunya? Is there a way they could merge it together? Like if someone's opening a business and they say, look, I'm very successful, I'm making about 200-300 grand a year, but from this business, I'm going to give half of the proceeds towards Allah, a dawah project, a masjid. So that's a perfect example of actually showing that the deen and quote-unquote dunya can be merged. So what would you say, Dan?
So if you bear with me for this answer, Osama, because there's a lot to unpack. Firstly, where we are in the dunya in 2025 globally, the whole world is seeking balance. People are fed up of this lack of moral clarity. People are fed up of just material wealth. We may see this on adverts. We may see this on social media reels. You know, the best life coach is the one who's in Jumeirah Beach on a yacht. But in reality, people are living very empty lives. And they are seeking balance. And you know, there is no disparity between the creation of the heavens and the earth.
Yes.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this very clearly in the Quran. What does that mean? It means that by definition, if you are human, you will be seeking balance. But the environment around you has gone on steroids when it comes to material wealth. It's gone on steroids when it comes to sexual relationships. It's gone on steroids when it comes to self-gratification. So the fitrah, whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim, you will always want balance. And now you will see the whole world. I'm not talking about the political elite. I'm talking about the masses. They want to refer back to something that gives them moral clarity. They want to refer back to something that gives them a bit more enrichment in their own soul. So when you say balance, I don't believe that the world per se is losing it. I think they're seeking it. They're seeking it. It's the political elite who want to push one agenda. But generally the world is seeking it. Then when we come to Muslims and parenting and that balance, I think that's where we have to realign or rethink about this word balance. I don't think it's about deen and dunya. I don't think it should be a struggle of deen and dunya. Mm-hmm. You have done work in the IT field. You're looking at the IT sector. By your deen, you should be the best in it. But not because you want to be a chair of Microsoft, the CEO of Microsoft. But you should have a vision one day, inshallah, that your skills will help the ummah at large. And I would say very clearly and unapologetically on this podcast, every Muslim should be good at what they're doing, but for the sake of Allah, His Messenger, and the ummah. So the field I'm in, the work I do, I categorically, and this is no pride, I'm probably the best in my field, in my county, the best. And people refer to me, and people come to me, and they come to me to solve the issues that they hire me for. Okay? Now, that is why, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us to excel, but not excel at the expense of the deen. Not excel at the expense of making the dunya on steroids and forgetting our purpose. Our purpose. So I don't see there's a dichotomy. I think the balance is in a very specific viewpoint of actually putting dunya on steroids, self-gratification on steroids, sexual relationships on steroids, and then you hollow out the fitrah of insan, and then he's lost and forever seeking, desperately seeking something to satisfy that with.
Jazakallah
khair.
Dad, now I'm going to go to a year 2013. 2013 was, I think it was November 2013.
Correct.
It was a hectic time. It was something where I thought you were just pulling my leg on something until reality actually hit me in the face. 2013, you took me to Egypt. Remember, it was me, you, and the American revert brother, the boxer Manny. Remember, we took him with us. And we landed in Cairo, and a few brothers picked us up from the airport. May Allah reward them. They took us to their apartment, and I landed in a place called Rihab in Egypt. You know, for the viewers, Rihab is like a lovely American copy complex So you had palm trees.
Correct.
You had like these massive Jeep SUVs, and I thought, wow, studying in Egypt's not gonna look bad.
Yeah.
Quad bikes. I remember you had halal TGI Fridays, all of that.
Correct.
I'm thinking, Dad's taken me from Luton to this side of Egypt to study the deen. It's not a bad bargain. We stayed there, and then I remember you said, no, you're not staying here. You're going to go to Nasser City.
That's correct.
Nasser City is like comparing, even though I love Luton, it's almost like comparing Berry Park to Dubai.
Correct.
So when I hit Nasser City, I saw these stray dogs in the middle of the road, chasing, barking. No Wi-Fi cord, no Wi-Fi cable in the apartment.
Correct.
I remember you put a socket into the plug and it just blew up in your face.
Correct.
So I don't know what's behind the walls. And then obviously we signed up to the Markaz, the institute. Even food was because UK has lovely food. Egypt, may Allah bless them, but food is something they need to work on. No offense intended, by the way. Then, you said to me, I'm going to go in a week's time. So you were there altogether 2 weeks.
Correct.
We did all the excursions, Salah ad-Din's castle, rahmatullah alayhi, the different masajid, Azhar, Amr ibn al-As. But then the morning come where you said, look, I'm going back. So I dropped you off Cairo, Terminal 1. And in my heart, Dad, in my heart, I was thinking, Dad's going to say to me, this is all a test, I'm going to bring you back. I just wanted to test if you had any minerals about you.
Yeah.
You didn't say that. You walked straight past security check. And I'm like, that's it. Like, I'm 16 years old.
Correct.
What do I do now? So I went back to the apartment and, walked in. I'm thinking, damn, like, this is life now. I'm spending the next 9 months here, 16, 17 years old, no Wi-Fi connection. And you even left me, Dad, this is a smartphone, innit? An iPhone, yeah? You didn't even leave me one of these. iPhone back then, I remember iPhone 5 or 6 had come out. You left me with a Nokia 6700 Classic and you gave me calling cards and stuff. I want to ask you, Dad, first day you left, I came home and I cried on my pillow because I'm like, I don't know what's going on. There's no social circle here. I don't even have the language. I can't even order food, rice, without getting the mick taken out of me.
Yeah.
And all these Egyptians laughing at me because I don't even know how to say rice.
Sure.
I come home, I cry and stuff, go to my lessons. So I want to ask you, Dad, why did you do that for?
Sure.
Like, why did you just dump me there? You knew that I was going to find it hard. You set my expectations so high by taking me to the Hab first. Then you took me to the Bronx. Why did you do that? What was the vision? What were you thinking?
So I think there's a few things, Usama, to mention here. Is alhamdulillah, Allah's mercy that you have turned out to be a man of yourself, alhamdulillah.
All from Allah.
And it's all Allah's mercy. And I have to remind all the viewers and listeners that the Prophet ﷺ said no one will enter Jannah except by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
That's right.
And companions, may Allah be pleased with them, they asked, what's even you, Ya Rasulullah?
Yes.
And he said, yes, even me.
That's right.
So everything that's happened in your life is surely by the mercy of Allah
right.
subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have to accept this. Look, Usama, I wanted you to be a man, okay? And when I say this, I don't talk from Andrew Tate's playbook, okay? I don't talk from his playbook. I talk from the playbook of Khalid bin Walid. In fact, I talk from the playbook of the man I named you after, Usama bin Zaid. He was very young. If you can recall his age when he was a commander of the army.
16.
16.
Yeah.
16. Subhanallah, 26-year-old man today, he's living with his mother and his mother's running around after him, cleaning and cooking and doing this and doing that. This is not indicative of a man who's going to lead the ummah. There is a verse in the Quran. He says that you have to make your ulad and develop them as leaders of the muttaqeen.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, in Surah Furqan.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a dua, actually.
That's right.
It's a dua. So this has to be these kind of verses are not just for the shelf or just to talk or I'm giving a podcast, let's just talk. We have to live these. How are you going to be leader of the muttaqeen if you can't manage your own life? How are you going to be leader of the muttaqeen if you can't even manage your own finances? If you can't navigate through difficult situations? This is not indicative of a leader. So leaving you there wasn't like, let's try and, let's see if he's got some metal. This isn't some misogynistic trial I put you on. Let's see if I've got a man or a woman on my hands. Come on. No, this was designed. This was very clearly thought through. And more so, it was for your education, for your tarbiyah. And the tarbiyah is not only in books. The tarbiyah is not only in sheikhs you study with. The tarbiyah is to live amongst the ummah, to love the ummah.
Yeah.
And to give the love back to the ummah. And to be able to navigate yourself with every different kind of personality. The good, the calm, the easygoing, the funny, the awkward, the very difficult, the rude, the obnoxious. You have to navigate yourself through all of these personalities. And if the leader of the muttaqeen can't do this, then you're going to be creating so many problems for yourself and for the ummah.
Yes.
So we have to be very clear that this was the whole reason. Of course, 2025, someone listening to this podcast must think I was heartless. Yeah, how can you do that? Only 16, subhanallah. And this is a real disease that we as an ummah, more so in the West, have to deal with. You're not only 16. You're a man. At the age of 16, you're a man. Okay? And I don't subscribe at all to this, go to the gym, pump iron, and this is what defines a man. Okay? As we know, the reality of Musab ibn Umair, he has legs probably skinnier than me, correct? And when he was reciting Quran outside the Kaaba, Abdullah ibn Masud.
Yeah.
When he was reciting Quran outside the Kaaba, he was very skinny, even to the point that the companions used to laugh at his how thin he was.
That's right.
This is what metal really looks like. Metal doesn't look like 160 kg bench press. Metal looks like the ability to stand in the face of tyrants and disbelievers and say very clearly, Allah's deen is haqq, and Rasul is haqq, and Allah's system is haqq, and I'm here to work for it. So this is what cuts the metal. So leaving you there, for me, it was just nothing more than a transition of your life from where you have left UK, your education, to build on this so you can come back and do bigger and better things with this ummah, inshallah.
I just want to advise, viewers, regarding moving to the Muslim world or saying the children, that is something I would definitely recommend people to do. Even if they're able to send their kids alone, it will be very good. Do you know why, Dad? If you live in one setting your whole life, you think the whole world looks like that.
Correct.
You think UK is just the be-all and end-all of everything. When you travel, you meet different languages, different cultures, different people. You realize, wow, the world can actually function in a different way.
Yes.
So one thing I realized is, even though Egypt was so chaotic and it was a mess, there's no real traffic system unless you've got a policeman there, otherwise no one's going to stop really, is I learned that even though amongst chaos, if people have strong remnants of Islam, they can solve their own issues. I'll give you an example. Do you remember, Dad, when we came back from Giza, the highway was just crazy.
Yeah.
Like these guys were driving 120, 30 miles an hour, and I'm
Correct.
talking 6 lanes doing this. No indicate, nothing like that. But do you know the moment they saw an old man on the road, all of these thousands of cars would stop.
Correct.
Because in that culture, Islamic culture, the elderly hold a specific position socially. You respect them, you elevate them, you look after them. And even though there was no lights or anything, they would all stop and they'd hold their hand of this old man with a walking stick and you walk past this massive, busy motorway.
Correct.
So the point I want to make to those listening is, if you can, send your children, send your family to places because they will pick up places of life that you can't pick up here.
Of course. And the environment makes a big, big difference. Just learning from living in Egypt, living in Cairo. I mean, look at this happy snapping culture we have. 2 people start an argument in the street of London today. 25 people will take out their phones to record it. 2 people have an argument in Cairo in the bazaar, and 25 people will rush to calm it down and say, look, don't worry, relax. If he's wronged you, don't worry, I'll pay. I'll deal with it. Just part. Don't argue. Don't fight. This is the remnants of Islam in those countries and those people.
Yes.
Whereas here, it's all about, again, how many views will I get by putting this fight on? It really is an upside down civilization where we take joy out of someone's misery. Okay. Whereas in the Muslim world and places like that, and this is not me speaking as a Muslim and being biased. untold amount of social media videos talking about how some woman left her purse in Dubai and it was returned to her the next day untouched. How someone left their keys, how they were, they met with kindness, and how they looked after, how they lost all their money, but some old woman was there to look after. Look, this is the social fabric of the Muslim world. And just to live in that social fabric is the right soil for your children to bloom into an amazing tree that gives sweet fruits.
Even that, the Muslim world, one thing it does, and I think this is actually what the world is missing out on a lot today, is a true sense of love. What do I mean love? I don't mean that anyone can get in a relationship and say to their partner, I love you, send an emoji of a heart or whatever, go on fancy restaurants or do all of that, take them on holidays. What I mean by love is that love is tied to a vision, and when someone is extending that love to you, it's not because you're close to them, it's because the vision that they follow demands that they show you that love. And what I mean by that is, do you remember Sheikh Rajai?
Correct.
May Allah bless him so much.
Ameen.
He was an old man. MashaAllah, he knew the Quran so proficiently well. You pick up an ayah, he'd recite in the different modes of recitation as well. I remember, because he used to live with us 3 days a week in the apartment, when I walked to Fajr, this is the first time I've ever experienced this from someone much older. Because obviously grandfathers passed away early. So we would go to Salat al-Fajr at the masjid, and one day, and this is what I mean by people should go visit, he locked his arm into my arm and he walked with me. So obviously coming from the UK, you find this strange.
Of course.
Like, why is this guy locking his arm in my arm? Obviously I was polite and stuff, I didn't say anything. Afterwards I asked him, why do you do this and stuff? He goes, look, we make sons out of our students.
MashaAllah.
We make sons out of our students. After that day, Dad, even in the text messages now on WhatsApp, he always refers to me as Ibni al-Habib, my beloved son.
Yeah.
And just feeling that, Dad, it was like a part of my heart that I've never tapped into that became unlocked. And from that day on, he became like dad stroke grandfather. He was never a teacher anymore.
Correct.
So what I'm trying to say is in a world where people are crumbling on a social level, people are forced to lock up their feelings, people are forced to suffer alone, that Muslim world actually opens up your heart.
Absolutely.
Because the love that they show in there is based on the vision of Islam.
Absolutely.
Hospitable, forgiving, soft, wise in how they correct you, wise in how they advise you, never expose your shortcomings.
Yeah.
I remember even Sheikh Rajai would always say with the young students, he goes, look, don't be hard on them.
Correct.
Take it easy.
Correct.
They're growing up to do. They still got a lot of growing up to. Don't be too harsh with them.
Correct.
So like with me, he had a standard that you have to read X amount, but with students who are younger, don't push them too much.
Correct.
Because the key is to get them closer to the Quran, not to push them away.
Yeah.
So I think people who have the means to go to the Muslim world, they should definitely go and immerse their families there.
And we should clarify, Usama, the Ummah here is no less, I'm not saying the Ummah here is bad. The Ummah here is very good.
That's right.
It's very good. But we're not talking about the Ummah per se. We're talking about the soil.
Yes.
We're talking about the environment. And that environment will make us lean in whatever way that soil is put together. So here, of course, there is a lack of remembrance of Allah, His Messenger, the Deen, the Dawah, this love that you're talking about, this compassion that you're talking about. Society doesn't have these qualities. It's very cutthroat. It's very put people down. It's very gossip. It's very I don't like you. It's very much I don't want to work with you. Whereas in the Muslim world, it's the soil is very different. So this is not the ummah we're talking about here for clarification.
Yes,
this is the soil that we're talking about, the environment.
The general Western civilization.
Absolutely.
Dad, there's another journey which took place 5 years before Egypt. That journey, Dad, for me, has to be probably the best experience I've ever experienced in my entire life. I don't think I'm ever going to experience this again.
Sure.
It was literally once in a lifetime. We're going to speak about this later on, but obviously, you and Mum separated when I was like 6 years old.
Correct.
And then I lived in Wembley for a long period of time. Then obviously later on, when I was getting close to my teenage years, I moved back to Luton. When I was 11 years old, Dad, you took me for Umrah, but you didn't take me for 1 week. You didn't take me for 2 weeks. You took me for 45 days.
Correct.
So you took me a week before Ramadan. This is in 2007, yeah? You took me a week before Ramadan and we came back a week after Eid.
Yeah.
That whole journey, Dad, I can't explain to you in words how special that journey was. It was as though, wallah, I feel like it, Daddy. It's as though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted me to go through seeing everything I saw then just to make me love the Quran to the stage I am today. And that's now 18 years later.
Sure.
Why did you do that for? You know, parents would go take them 1-2 weeks, Umrah, come back.
Yeah.
Today, family holidays, and there's nothing wrong with it. Spain, Dubai, Qatar, Thailand, wherever. Why did you, Dad, at 11 years old again, take me for 45 days? What was the vision? What was the plan? What did you want from that? Because it was just me and you. There was no other family member.
Sure.
It was me and you. We did plenty of Umrahs, a lot of Quran, but I'm sure your vision was more than that. I was only 11. Why did you take me there for that many days?
Look, Osama, when you were young, the first thing every parent needs to do is consolidate the deen inside the young mind and make it very strong. And it's not just the mind, your heart. Okay? Today we see so many people graduate as hufaz, and the mind is in one place, the heart is in another. So it had to be a journey of the heart and mind for me. So to take you in these places, Egypt and Makkah and Medina, and spend time there so you can actually become very deeply embedded with your heart and your mind, this was key to do this at a very early age. I will clearly and proudly say that I lived for you and your brother when you were young, very young. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that you said, Dad, I want a Nike top. I go out and get you a Nike top. By the way, that's another story about you and wearing designer labels when you were a kid. Was never allowed. Okay, but we'll approach that later. I didn't live for you for that purpose. Dad, I need this. Okay, Dad runs out and gets it. Dad, I need this. I'm going to make sure my child, he gets everything he needs. I never had this view. This is wrong. Okay, I didn't serve you for the dunya, but I lived for both of you. If you go to our town in Luton, and there's a particular masjid, and you go to that masjid, Masjid Nur, and you ask the people, where was this man and his 2 sons every Fajr for 4 years, and what were they doing for 4 years every Fajr? They will tell you they were reciting Quran, and they were going through his journey of hifz. This is what I mean. I lived for you and your brother. I lived for you and your brother to become very deeply embedded in the deen. Okay, not just to carry as a slogan, not just to carry as a title. So in order to make that very strong, it's not just to lock you in a room with books and Quran and Hadith and say, here, learn. No, your heart had to be nourished. Your heart had to be cultivated with the love for this deen. And this is important when we're bringing up children. Don't just throw them in madrasa. Where's their heart? They sat in madrasa 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a day. Their heart is in a TikTok. They sat in madrasas X amount of days. Their heart is in Mo Salah's argument with Arnie Snot. Okay, how? You can't, it doesn't balance. Your heart has to be there. I'm not saying you don't follow football. I'm not saying you don't play football. That's not what I'm saying. But if your heart and mind are at disparity between each other over the deen, you're not going to build a very consistent personality. So taking you to Makkah, taking you to Medina, for the whole of Ramadan it wasn't just 45 days, it was in Ramadan.
That's right.
And we spent Eid there together as well.
That's right.
This was so important for me, to make sure that your heart melts as well as your mind gets convinced. So this is why I did these kind of things. And on the other side, of course, as you can remember, your childhood was filled with enrichment. So we used to travel a lot. We used to go hunting with birds of prey. You were always around activity-based things. So it wasn't that Osama was locked in a room with books and just said, get on with it. On the equal side, what the soul needed was enrichment. And I'd say that to parents as well. Parenting is not just about the hard and fast. You got to think about enrichment. Today, enrichment is not PS5 or whatever stage they've got to, 6 or 7. Today, enrichment is not football. Today, enrichment is about opening the heart. So it's not just about nurture, it's about nature. Look, we are sat in a studio in London. I walk the streets of London. Very little things remind me of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If my daily work involves being out amongst nature, every day I'm reminded about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, if that's me at the age of 55, 56, can you imagine a young child who's surrounded with just objects and a concrete jungle and games and PS2s and it's just gratification? His heart is going to get very hard very quickly. So parents need to really think about how to soften that heart and nurture it so it's connected to nature. And naturally, when your heart is connected to nature, you're connected to the Creator.
From that trip that we done in 2007 in Umrah, a particular journey began. And that journey I don't think is going to end until I pass away. And that was the journey with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Quran.
Correct.
I remember in Heathrow Airport, I read Surah Bayyinah in Juz Amma. He said to me, finish this surah, and we're going to spend the next 45 days seeing if you can finish your first Juz of Quran, memorize it. Obviously, back then you're young, so when you're listening to like Al-Juhani and Sheikh Mahir and Sudais, you're like blown away from the recitation because you're hearing these people live. You grew up on their cassettes.
Correct.
So that motivated me. Alhamdulillah, I think 2 days before Eid, I finished that whole juz. I remember I finished it in Medina.
Correct.
Now, the journey of the Quran began there. I want to ask you something, though. Why did you make the Quran so pivotal to my life? Why, even till today, you ask me, what have you read? What are you going through? What are you delivering? What are you researching? What have you read? What are you studying? Are you still reading to a sheikh?
Correct.
Why Quran?
Quran is the cornerstone of our life, Usama. Without Quran, we're nothing. We're finished. It's almost like our anchor. Verse after verse, surah after surah, it helps us navigate through the most deepest of problems and the most complex realities. And if our cornerstone is not Quran, then what is our cornerstone? It's so easy today. Go on TikTok and you'll get this motivational speaker and he'll say, look, love is this and motivation is this and you're your own man if you can do this. La ilaha illallah. 1400 years ago, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was telling us all this in this book. And today, some very charismatic speaker appeals to us more. How? Okay? All these you see on your reels, they have very fundamental grounding in the Quran. Okay? If you talk about real men, if you talk about the story of the different Nabiyyin, it's all there. It's all there. The motivation, the sacrifice, the standing tall, the being the lion, okay? Having a backbone, having a spine, all these words that you hear on your reels, they're from the Quran. And really, it's like if you don't have Quran, you're like a desert with no water, no rain. You're barren, you're empty, nothing will grow in you. You won't grow yourself, you won't grow emotionally, you won't grow spiritually, you won't grow intellectually, you won't grow at all. So Quran is the cornerstone. And it's important. Our aspirations shouldn't be just, I want to make my son or daughter hafid of Quran and that's it.
Yes.
But what does that mean? Does the Quran have a daily effect on this hafid's life? Yeah. And if it doesn't, then there's some mismatch gone wrong. There's some issue that's happened that it's not correctly matching. But I'd expect that every time you hit a problem, you open the Quran and you refer to a surah.
Yes.
This is natural. And if we don't open the Quran and refer to a surah for our problems of maybe I haven't had enough clients this month, I have to go back to the Quran. Maybe I'm very successful, I have to go back to the Quran. Maybe my father doesn't get my viewpoint, go back to the Quran. And this is not in a loose way. Maybe there's a woman out there, I've read a story in the paper that she's gone and sold her honor to put food on the table for her children. What does the Quran say? Okay? Not so long ago in this country, the budgie was revealed. What does the Quran say? So Quran is not just a internal, individual spiritual book. It's a guidance for whole of mankind. Okay? And mankind means Muslim and non-Muslim. So if without that, Usama, quite frankly, you'd be walking upon this earth. Okay? With what? maybe a reel of a motivational speaker here, and you probably take your economics from some successful guy who's run a business and has 2.4 million turnover. These are not our standards. This is not our criteria. So we have to be deeply embedded with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Jazakallah khair. You know, one thing that I want to mention, now we entered the discussion of the Quran, I think is very important for children and parents both to have a connection with the Quran. And I'll explain what I mean. Now that we're entering, not even entering, we've entered a phase now where any sort of idea is accessible to human beings. And some ideas can penetrate the mind if there's no foundation that's been solidly built. Atheism,
Correct.
doubts, Allah, questions like, why is Allah the most merciful, but then He can give children cancer?
Correct.
How is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the most just, but then what's happening in Gaza is taking place? Now, of course, there's nuanced answers for each of these questions, but nevertheless, if there's no deep foundation with Allah's book, doubts are going to creep in. And they'll creep in more when someone has depicted Islam as just a rule book of do's and don'ts and stick or carrot. That's what will happen.
Yep.
When I was reading Surah Hud, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the scene between Nuh alayhi salam and his son when he's about to, when the flood is coming down.
Correct.
And his son's not embarking upon the ship. Nuh alayhi salam uses a very specific phrase to show here and illustrate a deep sense of love. He doesn't say, Ya ibni, he says, Ya bunay. Oh, my dear son, embark upon the ship. Irkam ma'ana, wa la takum ma'al kafirin. Do not be with the disbelievers. One thing I took from this ayah, when I was looking into this, Dad, is that Nuh alayhi salam very clearly, he understood something so clear, which was he can only convey guidance to people. And even with his son, he had to show a high level of love, even at the brink of him becoming a kafir.
Correct.
Even at the brink of him leaving Islam.
Correct.
So the point I'm trying to make here is for like parents and children is don't conflate culture with Islam and then justify culture via Islam, because now when children grow up in this society and questions are put to them, if they take anything negative from their childhood, they'll think that Islam's done this. Islam hasn't done this. Look at Nuh alayhi salam, what he said to his child is about to become a kafir. He didn't say you idiot or you fool or you're lost and give him silent treatment and go through all this long thing that people go through with their children. He goes, Ya bunay, my dear beloved son, come on the ship.
Correct.
So you learn here Nuh alayhi salam's standard was the standard of Allah Azza wa Jal. High level of love, high level of warmth, and the demand was also high that, look, come on the ship or you're going to fall down.
Correct.
And then on the flip side, Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam is that why the child should have a deep connection with the Quran is because you learn from this surah that when Ibrahim alayhi salam saw his vision that he was sacrificing his son, if Ismail alayhi salam didn't have a vision, he would have told his father, go away.
Correct.
What do you mean sacrifice me?
Correct.
What do you mean put me in your lap and put a knife to my neck and sacrifice for Allah? No. So the point I'm trying to make here is if both children and parents have a relationship with the Quran, that vision will be the oil upon which your homes are built and running on.
Correct.
So that's something I just wanted to mention, about both children and parents. Because even when you went, Dad, you were memorizing Quran when we went to Saudi.
Correct.
You didn't even need to.
Correct.
But you done it to show me that, look, I'm also on this journey at the same time.
Correct. And I think it's a very important point for parenting, Usama. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala very clearly in the Quran, He says, are you of those who say but don't do? Parents, this is the first. Anyone who wants to embark on a journey of parenting, write this on all the walls of your house. Are you of those who say but don't do?
Wow.
Write it in calligraphy on the walls of your house. Because a good parent is the one who does and then says, not the one who says but doesn't do. He has to be the role model. He has to be the role model in relationships. He has to be the role model in parents, how he deals with his parents, how he deals with his siblings, how he deals with the community, and also how he does dawah. Okay? And this is what you will find that parenting is really... Look, At the end of the day, parenting, everyone learns through looking and observing. Most children will learn through observing.
Yes.
Yeah. If I've got some I don't know, some pop songs on and I'm telling you to learn Quran, come on. There's a big disconnection here. And you're going to say, what kind of joke of a father my father is actually. He's telling me to learn the Kalam of Allah and he's listening to God knows what. And before long, you will have no interest in learning Quran. None. Whether we like it or not, we don't live in this black and white robotic world. You will take a lead from your father. Everyone will take a lead from their parents. Okay? Because when the seed first goes in, it has to find itself in the soil. What is that soil? The soil is your parents. And if the soil is not of good grade and good quality, then the seed will lean one way. So it's very important that we actually, for parenting, my number one advice is do first and then say. Don't say and not do. This will end up in an absolute mess and catastrophe.
Something I want to touch upon which affected me a lot, that affected a lot of people in the family. In fact, it affected the entire dunya. 2023, Gaza took place.
Correct.
And a lot of people are forgetting about it now, even though the reality actually hasn't changed. But in the time period where it's at its peak, people were questioning a lot of things about the world, their life, who they are, who these people are. How is it that they're going through what they're going through? And Gaza actually, that became a discussion for us both as a reference point. We're on the phone every day,
Correct.
2, 3, 4 times a day.
Correct.
There were times where, I'll just be honest, obviously, I just cry.
Correct.
Well, how can I make sense of this?
Yep.
Babies and women and so even animals. People didn't have mercy on the animals even.
Correct.
And then, you would refer and make reference to the children of Gaza a lot, that you learnt maturity through hardship. What is it, Dad, that you would say that the Muslims need to learn from the children of Gaza? Not the adults, but the children of Gaza. What is it you say that the Muslims at large, in fact, forget Muslims, the whole world, what do they need to learn from those children in Gaza, where a girl at the age of 9, she is being operated on without any anesthetics. The only anesthetic for her is the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Correct.
She's reading the Quran and one of her limbs are being amputated.
Correct.
And she's just reading kalam of Allah.
Correct.
What do people need to learn from those children?
Yeah, I'd say the first thing, Usama, is if I can revisit 2023 and mining your journey for the last 2 years. This first time in my life, I saw you despair a little. I saw you waver a little, not in your deen, but in your energy, in your commitment to carrying on with this dawah. I was picking up the phone and say, Usama, and we had daily discussions reminding you that Allah is greater and His wisdom is greater. And this is a filter for you, and this is a filter for the ummah. So this affected all of us. Gaza affected all of us, and children and parents alike who were on page with what's going on in the world. They got heavily affected. And my advice to you was always, remember, Allah's plan is greater. This is Allah's filter. Do not despair. Do not fall into despair. Alhamdulillah, you reconciled these things. You picked up. You carried on the dawah. Alhamdulillah. It was great to see that. And by the way, this is the natural discourse. When you see something so horrific, so graphic, I don't expect any imam, mufti or sheikh not to be shaken. Everyone should have been shaken. Because if they're not shaken, then there is that famous dua of the Prophet ﷺ, Allah protect us from eyes that don't weep and hearts that don't feel. And of course, we felt and we wept. And we wept and we felt. Every day, it was very difficult to reconcile this. It was difficult. It was almost at a point of give up everything. The whole world has turned its back on it. The rulers have turned their back on it. Everyone's turned their back on Gaza. Okay, all these civilizations that call themselves the bastions of civilization, the freedoms and the humanitarian and this, that, everyone turned their back on these children and these women and these people. So that, I would say, is the first point, that when we are parenting, you got to, and this is what I mean, nurture the heart. And sometimes it's not about the detailed Islamic sciences that your child knows. Sometimes it's the most fundamental ideas in Islam, okay, like don't despair, like don't lose hope, victory is from Allah, this is Allah's test. Simple things like that will make men and will make women. So that's the first thing. Subhanallah, what can we learn from the children of Gaza? You know, when I was growing up, there was a book called Men Around the Messenger, and then there's other books called The Companions of the Prophet. I have a very simple take, and inshallah, maybe Allah will give me the tawfiq to write this one day. If you want to talk about the men around the messenger, 2023, it was these men. I don't need to start picturing Umar radiallahu an. I don't need to picture Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu an. I look to these people, and they were the men around the messenger. Their qualities, their resilience, they had nothing. They, even by the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, could have done things to avoid death. They could have gone, left their homes. Their resilience, their firmness upon deen. Their reply wasn't, we are Arab, come and save us. Their reply was, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. Allah is enough. Their reply was, where's the ummah? Where are the Muslims? Okay, so if you want to ever refer back to the heroes of Islam, and this is a very important point, because a lot of people, they look at everything, the whole world in despair, and they say, oh, they were the golden times of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh and Umar radiallahu anh. Look at the golden time. These are the golden people, the people of Gaza. They showed us every quality that the companions held. Every quality. They are yearning for Jannah. They stood firm in front of the tyrants. They did not bend over bombs. Everything about them motivates me to carry Allah's deen more. 2023, we're not talking 1400 years ago. So the lessons are untold. The lessons are untold. I mean, simple things like a little boy who's gone hungry for months, he's sharing his food with his cat. I mean, simple things like that. Okay, to the more detailed things of we'll never leave this house. Yeah, they can bomb us, they can do whatever, we won't leave. And Allah is enough. These all show me that these people were built on deen. This deen is not in books. Deen is not in just sitting in institutions. Deen is not to sit on the minbar and give a khutbah. That was deen. What unraveled in 4K on our televisions and our phones, that was the real implementation and manifestation of the Islamic belief. And that's how we got to look at these people. Nothing less. Nothing less. And then, of course, the test is ours. That what we did towards it. So I'd say there are a lot of lessons, Usama, we can take from the people of Gaza.
Jazakallah khair. You know that to kind of we're nearing the end of the show, this episode. You know, for parents who've watched this now, and they feel that they've failed, they feel a sense of failure in how they've raised their children, and they've watched this, what would your advice be to them?
You have never failed. Keep trying. Okay, and this is a very important lesson. As you know, I deal with I've got my own parenting show on radio, and I deal with a lot of people from the community, and people come to me and say, oh, my daughter's taken off her hijab and I'm really angry, or my daughter's done this, or my son is not praying. And I say, look, most importantly, what is your relationship like with your children? Because the train is going, and sometimes it does get, stop and start, and it gets it sees something and it maybe thinks of derailing. What is it that keeps that train on the track? Is your relationship. So if you're listening or you've heard this podcast and this episode in particular, and you think there's no hope for me, there's always hope. Rekindle your relationship. Okay? Don't go in with the hard and fast. Okay? Go in with the soft. Go in with the easygoing. Build your relationship. Make friends from your children. Because if the friendship exists, everything else will exist. Mine and your relationship, Osama, is not, I wouldn't say it's the blueprint for every parent. Yeah, we're far from it. I think there's a lot that the relationship we can work on, we can build on, and it's work in progress. There'll never be a day where I'll say I've got the perfect kid, and I'm sure there'll never be a day where you say you've got the perfect father. But the most important thing is that our friendship exists. And that's the most important thing. You can bring your issues to me. I can discuss my issues with you. And that's important. So I don't think there's any issue where someone has to. This podcast wasn't about if you can't do this, you failed. Not at all. The most important thing is, do you have the will and determination to continue that friendship? And if there isn't a friendship, do you have the will and determination to build that friendship? Because if everything, and it's very common, by the way, just this morning I wrote an article on how children and parents' relationship is completely broken down, finished in this part of the world. It's almost like bed rot. The child spends 9 hours of their home time in his or her bedroom. The 1 hour is to come and eat, and then off he goes or off she goes. Okay, this is the soil, this is the environment, this is the civilization, unfortunately, we live in. But you have to rekindle that. You have to give the olive branches, and you have to start working on that. And there is no time. There's no time to this. Don't say like by this time she should have a hijab back on. By this time, work at it. Work at it. Be soft. Be kind. Okay, show compassion and show leadership. Okay, show that you're doing it because it's to please Allah. Not you're doing it so you have to do it as well. No, have that motivation very clear, and your intentions very clear that you want to be a leader, and they can refer to you. And it's very important. You will recall, Osama, there were many tests and challenges I had in my life, raising you guys, and whether they were economic or whether they were personal, whatever. That sentiment of, oh, it's not going, never came out on you guys. I never took out my, sometimes business is not good. I didn't come out and take it out on the kids. Very common thing. Okay, father just emotionally detached just because he hasn't made enough money. No, it shouldn't be the case. So I would say those listening should be very clear. It's never too late. Don't lose hope, and rekindle this friendship. Yeah.
We're gonna, Dad, wrap the show up now, inshallah, in the episode. Maybe in the future we can explore more things, inshallah. But this last few words are from me because I want them to be like a form of a memory. And that if you were to pass away, I can look back at this episode as something digital to look back on. Something that will benefit the ummah. And if I pass away before you, then you can look back at this to say that these were the words that were in my heart that I felt towards you. So I just wanted to say, Dad, Jazakallah khair for all the sacrifices you made. Jazakallah khair for the struggles that out of your intense love you never showed us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you for everything you've done.
Ameen.
May Allah forgive all of our shortcomings.
Ameen.
And I'm grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I was able to not just enjoy your parenting when I was young, but now it's turned into a friendship now, where you can lean on me and talk to me about your issues and seek help from me. And I'm just grateful that in this small span of a few days that we call the dunya, I was able to experience this type of relationship before we go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannah. So Dad, may Allah bless you and elevate you and elevate the rest of our parents. And Jazakallah khair, if you got any closing words.
My closing words, Osama, whilst I'm alive, I want to see you excel in this dawah of Islam. And when I die, I want you to excel even more, so the reward keeps coming. Live for the ummah, live for Allah's deen. Everything else, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of. He will take care of your sustenance. He will take care of everything. But hold on to this dawah. If you move away from this dawah, you have moved away from your purpose of all those years of parenting.
SubhanAllah. Jazakallah khair. Dear viewers, I hope to enjoy the episode. All goodness was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any shortcomings are from ourselves. And inshallah, we'll see you on the next one. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.